Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, hey, I've got my mom's eyes, or that's definitely my dad's smile? It's one of the biggest, most fundamental questions in biology, and today we're going to crack the code of heredity right open. I mean, think about it, right? It's this wild puzzle. You are so clearly a mix of your parents. You can see them in your features, but at the same time, you are 100% completely unique. Nobody else is quite like you. That balance right there between similarity and difference, that's the magic of heredity. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the variation equation, what traits even are. Then, we'll meet the monk who basically cracked the whole code with some garden peas. After that, we'll see how his ideas connect to modern DNA. And finally, we'll use all that to answer the ultimate question. Is it a boy or a girl? All right, first up, let's talk about the raw materials of all of this. Traits. These are basically all the little characteristics that add up to make you, well, you. A really simple feature can show you a huge idea. Just look at earlobes. Seriously, some people have lobes that hang free, and others have them attached directly to the side of their head. It's just one trait, earlobe attachment, but there are these two different versions, or variants. Our world is just filled with these variations for everything, from your eye color to how tall you are. But where do all these traits actually come from? Well, the number one rule of heredity is that it's a team sport. Your mother and your father contribute pretty much an equal 50-50 split of the genetic instructions. So for every trait, you get one set of instructions from your mom and one from your dad. Now, for thousands of years, people knew that kids looked like their parents. That was obvious. But nobody knew the rules. It all seemed kind of random. That is, until a monk in the 1800s started counting peas and completely changed science forever. And this is the guy, Gregor Mendel. What made him so brilliant was that he was the first to really apply math to biology to find patterns. He chose to study the simple garden pea because it had a bunch of really clear, distinct traits that were easy to track. Things like, is the plant tall or short? Are the seeds round or wrinkled? So here's what he did. He took a purebred tall plant and crossed it with a purebred short one. Now, you'd expect a mix, right? Maybe some medium plants? Nope. The next generation, we'll call it F1, were all tall. Every single one. It was like the short trait just disappeared. But then, and this is the kicker, he bred those tall plants with each other. And suddenly, in that next generation, the short trait popped right back up in about 1/4 of the plants. It was a perfect, predictable ratio. So, where did it go? And how did it know to come back? This mystery led Mendel to his genius idea. Some traits are dominant, and others are recessive. Tallness was dominant. A plant only needed one tall instruction to be tall, but shortness was recessive. It was there all along, just hidden. The only way for a plant to actually be short was if it got 2 copies of that short instruction, one from each parent. This one simple rule explained his results perfectly. Okay, so that totally explains how one trait works. But what about, all of them? Mendel's next big question was, are traits linked together? Like, if a pea plant is tall, does that mean it has to have round seeds? Are they passed on as some kind of package deal? To figure this out, he started tracking 2 traits at the same time, like seed shape and seed color. This grid here, we call it a Punnett square, just shows all the possible combos. And when he looked at the actual results, he saw something incredible. The offspring didn't just look like their parents or grandparents. He started seeing brand new combinations he hadn't seen before, like round green seeds and wrinkled yellow seeds. And again, it wasn't random at all. The results fell into this clean, predictable 9:3 to 3:1 ratio. And this showed something absolutely crucial. The trait for seed shape was inherited completely independently from the trait for seed color. They were not a package deal. This idea is a massive engine for creating diversity, constantly shuffling the deck and allowing for new combinations of traits in every single generation. So Mendel figured out all the rules of the game, but he had no idea what the game pieces were. He called them factors, but he didn't know what they were made of. Today, of course, we know he was talking about DNA. So what Mendel called these mysterious factors, we now call genes. And a gene is really just a specific section of your DNA that holds the instructions for building one specific thing, usually a protein. Think of your entire DNA as a giant cookbook, and a single gene is just one recipe in that book. So how you get from a recipe in a book to a tall plant? Well, it's a chain reaction. The gene for tallness is a recipe for a specific protein, an enzyme. That enzyme's job is to help produce a growth hormone. If the gene's recipe makes a super efficient enzyme, the plant makes tons of hormone and grows tall. But if the plant has a different version of that gene, a different recipe, it might make a less efficient enzyme, which means less hormone, which means a short plant. It's a direct link from the DNA code to what you see in the real world. Now, all of this genetic information, all this DNA, isn't just one giant tangled string inside our cells. That would be a mess. Instead, it's neatly organized and packaged into these structures called chromosomes. And, just like Mendel predicted without ever seeing one, you get 2 copies of each chromosome, one full set from your mother and one full set from your father, which is how you end up with 2 copies of every gene. Okay, let's pull all of this together with one final perfect example that affects every single one of us: how our biological sex is determined. It's the ultimate genetic coin flip. So, humans have 23 pairs of these chromosomes. 22 of them are perfectly matched. But that last pair, the 23rd pair, are the sex chromosomes, and they're a little different. In females, you have a perfect pair of 2 chromosomes called X. So genetically, females are XX. But in males, it's a mismatched pair. They have one X, but the other one is a smaller chromosome called Y. So males are XY. Now, you can see inheritance in action right here. Since a mother is XX, every single egg she produces will carry one X chromosome. She has no other option. But a father is XY, so he produces 2 different types of sperm. About half of them will carry his X, and the other half will carry his Y. This means it's the sperm that determines the sex of the child. It's really that simple. If a sperm carrying an X chromosome fertilizes the egg, you get XX, a girl. If a sperm carrying a Y chromosome gets there first, you get XY, a boy. When you boil it all down, it's a perfect 50-50 chance. A coin flip every single time. So we've seen these beautiful, clear rules of the game that Mendel discovered. Dominant and recessive traits, genes shuffling independently. The principles themselves are actually pretty straightforward. But then you remember that humans have over 20,000 genes, and many of those genes have multiple variations. And when you let these simple rules play out across that massive scale, you get the breathtaking complexity that makes every single living thing on this planet genetically and truly one of a kind.